You can do anything. But what you gonna do for it? How you gonna move for it? What you gonna be?
Hey everybody, welcome to A-Train Bets. I am A-Train and I make bets. And in this video, we're going to talk about something that's really crucial for all sharp sports bettors, especially, but really any bettor that's making wagers, is that you need to know, not only do you need to know whether or not the wagers that you're making are positive EV. And so like, let's just go ahead and bring up the Odds Jam positive expected value page. And I've already done my live stream today, so we've crushed all of these bets. And what you can see is in these bets, you know, hey, because of the line, the odds that are available, there's a positive EV play to be made, right? Well, there's also, at least on the Odds Jam page, they give you this bet size. And this bet size is determined by something called the Kelly Criterion. And the Kelly Criterion is a way that we gauge, based on the size of our bankroll, how much we should place on any individual wager. So if you look at these available bets on the positive EV page, you'll see there's all these different amounts, and they're tied in part to the percent EV that we expect to get on these wagers, but they're also tied to the likelihood of these particular events occurring. And so it's doing an assessment against the likelihood of the event. And so there's a variance calculation there, right? The plus EV amount, which is when you have a higher plus EV, you're naturally going to bet more than when you have a lower EV threshold. And actually the Kelly Criterion has a negative amount. If you have a negative EV, the Kelly Criteria has a zero amount recommended, because they don't recommend you go and place money and put your money into losing investments. That's just generally good sound money management advice, right? Don't invest in the things that are going to lose you money long term. You know, any given bet, we know we're going to win or lose, but long term, these EV percentages are correct mathematically in assessing a market, assessing what we're trying to do. But we want to understand, where do these numbers even come from? Why here is it 90 versus why is it 140 there? Now, our friends at Odds Jam provide a lot of different kinds of tools, and we'll have some other videos that provide some kind of high-level overviews of everything that's happening in these particular selections, menu items. But one we're particularly interested in, and actually I already have it on another screen, is we're going to be going over here to this Kelly Criteria, or the Kelly calculator, right? And so I already have it up on this tab. And so what this is where we can actually see how these calculations are made. Now, the first number in this, and we'll actually get into some more of the explanation, but I think sometimes it's just easier to see how some of the numbers are working and then kind of explain what's going on. So if we go here, and I'm going to try to make it so that you can see, you know what, I'll just pull off my face for a second while we look at this at the top. And so what we see here is the Kelly multiplier is really the fraction of the bankroll that we want to wager. Now, in my own betting, I use a fairly conservative amount. I think the standard amount is 0.5. I use a 0.25 because I'm making lots of bets. And because I'm making lots of bets, I want to make sure that I'm spreading my risk across as many of those bets as possible. So I find the 0.25 gives me a nice conservative view where, as I place bets at a lot of different places, I really have no risk of losing my bankroll, because that's really what Kelly is about. It's about saying, I don't want to put so much into an individual wager that I might risk running out of money. Because even when you're placing positive EV bets, and are making a positive EV investment, this is a gambling term. Like the Kelly Criteria is actually really important from gambling perspective as well. Anytime you're talking about advantage play gambling, Kelly will come up in bankroll management. It's important to realize that even when you have a positive expected value, you will have peaks and values. You'll have swings. You'll have variance, right? Normal variance. It's just like a casino that always has the advantage in all the games that it's offering in a casino. If they don't have enough money to cover all of the bets being made and being able to pay out those winners that do occur, they're going to have problems. And it's kind of the same way for us, is in our own bankroll, we need to be able to cover all the bets that we want to make and not run out just due to the normal variance. Kelly helps us control for that. And so what we're saying is, in this case, relatively small fraction of the bankroll that we want to put in action at any given time at max, right? Then what we're going to do is we're going to start with simple numbers. So if you understand odds, and I have videos on how to understand how odds work, American odds in particular, odds, this is going to be representative of a 50-50 bet, right? So if I have odds of 100, the implied break-even point, the no vig odds, are going to be 100, right? So this is where if 50%, if the odds that I'm getting are 100, that's what we have. Now, if I'm getting what would be more typical in a 50-50 bet, if I'm getting minus 110, the expected value of that is minus 4.5%, and I shouldn't wager anything because I'm not getting enough. Now, if I'm all of a sudden getting minus 110 on a bet that is 60%, then I should bet 4% of that particular wager. And so instead of going real fancy with anything, let's just bring up a calculator and say, okay, well, if my 4%, so if I do 0.04 times, if my bankroll, in this case, we'll say my bankroll is $5,000. Okay, my total bankroll across all the books that I have might be $5,000. In that case, if I'm getting this kind of advantage on a huge 14% expected value, you can see that poking out, 14% expected value, then that means I should be betting $200 on that wager. Now, that's going to be a pretty unusually good wager. So let's move that across for a second so I can pull it back when it's time. In more likelihood, you're going to say minus 110, maybe it's 55. Now, instead of that 200, let's go back and we're going to say, okay, we want 1.38. So that's 0.0138 times the $5,000 bankroll that we have. That's a $69 bet that we should be making, right? So this is how Kelly, in the back side of this positive EV tool, that's what's happening. That's the calculation that's being run to help you understand here's what the bets are that you should be making. And so that's where it's important to understand how that comes into play. And also, you can use this calculator separately. If you find an opportunity where you're like, hey, I think this actual bet has a 90% chance of winning, but I'm getting a plus 1,000 type of situation, that'd be an enormous amount, right? Or say it's going to cost me, I think it's 90% to win, but I'm getting minus 500 odds. You say, okay, well, you should bet 10% of your bankroll. That 10% of your bankroll, this is kind of a bit, facetious, but the 10% of your bankroll would be what, 0.1 times 5,000. So in one of these amazing circumstances, 5,000, one of these amazing circumstances, you could bet $500 on that $5,000 bankroll because your opportunity here, 8% on such a high percentage win probability, means that you have, a lot that you should wager on that because their confidence is also really high. And so that's where, like, when you see something that is so advantageous. Now, granted, you're trying to win $100 with the $500 you're risking, but what Kelly isn't trying to do, it's not trying to tell you, hey, this is what you should wager because you're trying to make the most money. What it's doing is trying to protect your bankroll so that you can manage all of the swings. Now, if you think it's 90% to win, that's different than saying if it's 99% to win. Even though in our minds as humans, we don't necessarily know the difference inherently. But if you look, 23.5%, I'll pull this off again, 23.5% is a big amount. I mean, that's, over $1,000 in a $5,000 bankroll. But you better be sure that you're really sure that 99% to win. If it's really only 60% to win, then you shouldn't bet anything, right? So this is where it's really important to use data and use an assessment of the market to determine what it is that you should actually bet. So now if we understand that concept, you can play with these multipliers and understand that, like, in any circumstance, and this could be betting with friends or whatever. You think, oh, I think there's a 2/3 chance of winning. Go in and put in, I think it's 66. All right, what odds should we have, and what should the amount be that I'm willing to bet? And so you start to play with this. 66%, all right, but the odds are listed at minus 150. That's a good bet. That's a good bet, right? There's a 10% wager on that. Now, if it's minus 200, probably less of a good bet, right? Minus 1%. And this is where I think that people are so focused on the sides inherently because those are meaningful to us. It's like, is that team going to win, or is this event going to occur, or is this total going to be whatever? And that's where I think we focus most of our energy on that, which is the thing that's much harder to predict because math works. Math is just math, right? So if you understand the math and you understand how these numbers all play with each other and relate to one another, you can start to understand, hey, I can stop worrying about these things that everybody are thinking about, and they're collectively going to do way better job of predicting the future than I personally am going to be able to do with any crazy algorithm or anything. But I can look at the math and say, hey, there's a mathematical advantage here based on the numbers I'm looking at to go into this market and make a play where I don't need to know the details of what's happening. I can look at the math and say, well, as long as I know the percentage of likelihood of winning this, I can figure that out. And that's really what's happening when you look at an odds jam, you look at what we're doing with the positive expected value tool. That's all that's happening. We are looking at something like a FanDuel in this case is getting compared to a market that is being determined in some parts by Pinnacle. In this case, it looks like it's probably pretty heavily driven by Pinnacle. And it could be other sharp books or whatever, but OddsJam helps figure out through its algorithm, here's what the market should be. You look price outliers to that, you see the difference, you see the percent EV based on the no vig odds, and then running through your Kelly criterion for the individual, this will tell you how much you need to place to make that bet. So in this case, I would be placing 140 based on my bankroll size on this particular wager. And so that's one of the many tools that OddsJam provides, and this is Kelly Criterion. This has nothing to do specifically with OddsJam, but it is something crucial to being able to use OddsJam effectively. And so that's where I think you really want to be able to say, if you're going to be a sharp sports bettor, part of it is making good bets. A lot of it, though, is in making smart financial management decisions. You're managing risk, you're managing a bankroll, you're managing peaks and valleys and variance, and sometimes you're going to be betting heavy favorites, sometimes you're going to be betting heavy underdogs, and there could be huge positive expected value on a bet that's not very likely to win, right? And so you have to understand the implications of this as you become a sharp sports bettor. It's not just about picking goods, it's not about picking stocks, it's not about picking bets. It's about managing the entire portfolio of all the things you're doing, driven by the data, driven by the math, driven by your understanding of odds and how the market prices impact what it is that you're betting. And I did another video on there's like on any bet, there's a price where that bet's attractive. There's a price where that bet's attractive. And so that's where I think you need to be, if you want to be a sharp sports bettor, you really want to do this and put in the effort to make money sports betting. This is a crucial topic to understand. So keep digging into it. Go back, look at that OddsJam page. It's oddsjam.com/betting-calculators/Kelly-Criterion. And you can find it right at the top of the if you go to oddsjam.com, follow my link, atradingbets.oddsjam.com, and go to the link at the top, you'll find that calculator for Kelly Calculator. And it will be really useful to spend a little bit of time with it and understand. It's one thing, chasing down these positive VV bets, they make it really easy. But I think if you want to be a sharp sports bettor truly, you want to understand enough of the math behind it so you can be confident in understanding the actions that you're taking. So take some time, learn this stuff, research it, and become a sharp sports bettor. So with that, if you enjoyed this content, please do use my link, atradingbets.oddsjam.com, to sign up for OddsJam. Use code ATRAINBETS and you will save 20% off OddsJam for life. And please like and subscribe. Follow me on Twitter, ATRAINBETS, and watch my live streams every morning, 7:30 a.m. Central Time. We are placing bets and walking through the analysis that I do to be a sharp sports bettor that is making money. And my first thing I do every day is walk you through the results. I want to be completely transparent. This is not some get rich quick scheme. This is not. It's not easy. I mean, it takes work, but you can do it too. You don't have to be a math genius to follow the math, to understand the basics of the math and place sharp sports bets. And I am trying to bring transparency and authenticity to how I go about doing it and extend that to you so that you can do it too. Don't follow my bets, follow my process, and find me on YouTube. atrainbets.com will get you to where you need to go.